Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris Maloney of TNT Thursday Night Throwdown. This is the very first episode of the Fantasy Warhead. I almost said Warhead. I did say Warhead. Fantasy Warfare. Shawn shaking his head in the background there. Fantasy Warfare Tournament. Anyways, this is episode 1, focusing on the Ontario Independent Wrestling Tag Teams. And I'm going to bring together the host for tonight. This is a live free show, by the way. Any further episodes from this point forward will be on our Patreon account. Links are always in the bios, everything else. Again, my name is Chris Maloney. I'm going to bring on Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling. Shawn, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Looking forward to seeing what we break down with this tournament.
Now, I'll tell you this. So before we went live tonight, Shawn was rocking the Hawaiian shirt. I think we ribbed him a little bit too much. So now he's rocking the Sebastian Suave shirt. So duck the line, as they say. But Shawn, this was your idea to try to bring some kind of exclusive content to the viewers of TNT Thursday Night Throwdown, as well as bring a debate mode between some of the hosts here. I mean, I'm always on the show. You're always on the show. We'll have guests. As far as the warfare goes, it's going to be in between 3 to 5 people. We can't have even numbers just because of the fact that it is a voting system. But we are trying this out. It's not going to be exclusive to Ontario Independent Wrestling. It's also going to be, WWE, managers, valets, any ideas that we come up with, greatest matches of all time, which I think would be cool. Anyways,
finishing moves.
Finishing moves, yes, it is up for debate. But very first show here, we've got our third panelist, columnist, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Steven O'Neil in Toronto. Toronto, how are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
We're good. How's the weather up there?
It's beautiful. It's got to be in its 20s. I would rock the shorts and not a Hawaiian shirt all day, but it's been beautiful. Can't wait for this weekend. Self-isolate in 30-degree weather.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too appealing, actually. All right, so this is episode 1. This is, like I said, Fantasy Warfare Tournament. Almost as bad to say as Midwestern Wrestling for me, but I will get used to it. Anyways, like I said, Ontario Independent Wrestling Tag Teams. I wanted to do this because Shawn, on his Scumbags of Wrestling podcast, as well as the Scumbags of Wrestling group, had done the tournament to crown the Ontario Independent Wrestler, basically of the year, or whatever you want to call it. Tyson Dukes 2 years in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was our yearly March Madness, the top 32 independent stars, I guess. Well, maybe not all the top ones because there were some missing. But 32 stars from Ontario, 31 days of voting, and it came down to Tyson again. He won 2 years in a row.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Tyson Dukes, but the fact is when you've got all that talent that's in there, absolutely amazing. So we are on live and free right now. It is May the 1st. Thank God April's over. It is Friday, April 1st at 6 p.m. I mean, we'll see what we can do viewership-wise to see if we can boost this up. TNT will immediately follow this. But I'm going to try to bring up the screen as far as the brackets go. And just bear with me a sec. Steven, what are your thoughts on doing this Fantasy Warfare Tournament thing? What are your concepts, thoughts on future episodes as well? Like, what are some of the ideas that you might have for it?
I love the idea because, me and you like to debate a lot, regardless. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. I mean, I think I would love to do a 80s tag team, greatest manager, which, I mean, I think we can probably narrow it down pretty quick, but it'd be interesting to see what everyone else thinks. Also, I would love to do a finishing move because I think we've all grown up with different ones, so I think it would be interesting to see what would come out of it.
Well, my vote immediately is a One Wing Angel by Kenny Omega. I am throwing the rep tonight to Midwestern Wrestling because we are doing Ontario Independent Wrestling, but you will see me TNT rocking the Omega shirt once again. So you can see the split screen going on right now. That is the tournament. I'm going to bring it up and kind of highlight a little bit, just give you an idea of the brackets. Now, the brackets were randomly generated through a program known as, and bear with me a second, was Bracket Maker, and then you can find them at bracketmakerhq.com. But pretty cool program. It is free. There is a paid version as well. but I will bring up the bracket once again, as you can see it on the screen. I will go and make it a little bit better here for you. We will get better at this. This will be the only probably live episode that we ever do. Everything else will be pre-recorded and, like I said, exclusive to TNT Patreon. But here's the bracket itself. A1 Originals taking on the Revolt, Empire taking on the SSB, Physical Attraction taking on Bear Country, Halal Beefcake taking on Baywatch, the Butcher and the Blade taking on Fight or Flight, TDT taking on the Dirty Vets, the Pillars, that is Brent Banks and Tyson Dukes taking on the Well-Oiled Machines, Kill Screen, so that's Anthony Gaines and Scotty O'Shea taking on the Space Pirates. So that is the bracket of 16. Not all tag teams, obviously, in Ontario Independent Wrestling, are going to be part of this. But the way it worked out, Shawn had 6 picks because it was his idea. Steven had 6 picks. What we had to tell him it was only 5. So but we did agree on the SSB being part of it. So I had 5. Steven had 5. Shawn had 6. The way it works is basically 16 teams going into it, randomized bracket style. We share our points on basically who we think should advance in each bracket. From there, basically, it comes down to a vote. So Shawn votes, I vote, Steven votes. Winner advances, just simple as that. So, whoever, maybe it's a 3-0, or maybe it's a 2-for-1, whatever the case may be. Winner goes on. Basically, we do this tournament style until there is a winner declared. You will hear us debate. This isn't Omega and freaking Nakazawa thing, but Steven shaking his head. But you will see us heighten up. You will see us, share our thoughts. It is new because of the fact some of the tag teams I know Steven wasn't aware of, so I wasn't aware of. Shawn, some of the tag teams probably came as a surprise to you, eh?
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm not aware of as well. I've seen bits and pieces of a couple, especially with doing the Ontario Indie road trip videos, trying to get to know all the other organizations, not just the ones that we frequent more often. But yeah, so I've heard of obviously the Empire, but as far as A1, I'm not too sure of. And so yeah, we'll narrow it down as it goes along tonight.
All right, so in saying that, as you can see on the screen right now, and do you guys have the same screen as I have? So I'm in the left-hand corner, Shawn's in the right-hand corner, Steven's down bottom?
Yes.
Yep. All right, so how we're going to do this is basically this. So I've got a bracket up, and I'm going to basically keep, maintaining the bracket as we're going. But Shawn's going to share his thoughts on who he thinks should win that first-round match, why he thinks they should win. And then from there, it's going to go to Steven. From there, it's going to go to me. Now, we all might have our minds made up of who's going to win. But the fact is, maybe Steven changes Shawn's mind. Shawn changes me and my mind on things, whatever the case may be. Maybe I am the god of this show, and I just change everybody's mind. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No. You like Kenny Omega, so you automatically lose.
Yeah. So, anyways, case B is the fact is we've all got our picks. We all probably have a number one who's going to win the tournament. But you know what? It's like I said, voting counts. So it's going to be a 2-for-1 or a 3-0 and whatever the case may be. Maybe we all agree, maybe we don't. But the fact is, whoever wins at the end of this is by vote and by basically, who we think is worthy of being the first champions of the Fantasy Warfare Championship for the tournament here. Anyway, Shawn, I'm going to go to you first. It's going to go roundtable style. So Shawn, Steven, me. Pretty much everybody gets the point of this. But in saying that, so first round match, Shawn, A1 Originals, Cheech and Justin Sane, mainly with Alpha One Wrestling there in Hamilton, taking on the Revolt, Alec Realm and Jordan James. 2 guys I'm probably sure you're not too familiar with. But I want to hear who's your pick as well as who, so not who, but why you're picking these guys.
Okay, so as I mentioned when you asked about teams I did and do not know, A1 Originals, not too familiar with them. I have seen Justin Sane. I've seen him live. We were going to see him at Midwestern Wrestling, taking on Kyle Boone in a couple of weeks if that was happening. But the Revolt, obviously, I know them. I know them personally because I hang out over at the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory. And not just because of them, I'm knowing them compared to A1, but the build that the Revolt had over the last while, from being rookies and learning the ropes until the last match that we basically saw them around Christmas time, they've grown so much that's why I would definitely pick the Revolt to move forward, even after going against somebody like a Justin Sane and Cheech, who probably have way more experience than the Revolt.
Steven, how about you? Who's your pick and why?
I'm going the Revolt. I've seen Justin Sane live. I've seen Cheech on ROH years ago, but I think the Revolt are the future. I mean, I think they will be tag champions sooner than later. I mean, I think if this coronavirus didn't happen, I think they probably already would be Smash Tag Team Champions. But I mean, I think the Revolt are the future, and I actually think that they have a big future in tag wrestling.
All right, so I've already been outvoted, but I will share my thoughts. So I had picked the A1 Originals, and reason being is this. So you put the Revolt in the ring against anybody right now, and the fact is, how's it going to go? Is Jordan James going to be able to maintain himself? They won the championships at Smash Wrestling, and next thing you know, they are getting stripped of the titles by halftime, and then basically Jordan James, I think, got suspended or something like that. And it was supposed to be suspension past the Fanshawe show. A1 Originals, here's a team that existed way back in the day, okay? And they finally got back together. Next thing you know, Cheech and Justin Sane, who I'm looking forward to getting to see live in person because I've heard so much about this guy, get back together. Justin Sane decides, the A1 Originals are back in business. They end up winning the championships against it was a fatal four-way match, but it was who was in that? Fight or Flight was in that, as well as the Space Pirates, and there was another tag team as well. They end up winning the championships there. So you have this team that had a lot of history together, that had taken a hiatus, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they get back on track. Like I said, reason being for this is because the A1 Originals have history, they have chemistry, and Jordan James is too much of a firecracker to know which way he's going to go. So that was why I had picked the A1 Originals. But again, this comes down to a voting system. So fact is, A1 Originals done. The Revolt moves on. I've updated the bracket. I will show you guys probably after we finish the first round just how I'm doing this. And I think I'm going to change things up just a little bit. So as opposed to going Shawn, Steven, me, next round, which is this here, it's going to go Steven, Shawn, and then myself. I'll always be last to do things just as host. But anyways, next round is Empire, JT Kirk, and Matthew Grant. Current Courage Pro Wrestling champions, current Hamilton Pro Wrestling champions, former Crossbody Pro Wrestling champions, taking on the SSB, known as Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. A lot of fans know them now as the Dark Order, but people here in Ontario know them as the SSB. So, Steven, your thoughts between the Empire, who I know you weren't familiar with. I sent you that clip on YouTube, and the SSB, who everybody is well aware of here in Ontario. Who's your pick and why?
Yeah, I didn't know who the Empire were. You sent me a clip. They kind of impressed me. Not enough to change my mind, though. I'm going to go with the SSB. I mean, we've all seen them probably over 10 years, it feels like. I mean, they have the teamwork. I mean, I'm not a big fan of their gimmick right now in AEW, but that's not the point. They just have that factor that if they're good guys, you love them. And as soon as they turn heel, you just want to slap them because they've got that arrogant attitude. And
I think we lost Steve for a moment.
Hello?
Can you still with us?
Yeah, you guys just kind of froze.
Yeah, you said arrogant attitude, and then you kind of went robot voice. So and everything you said after arrogant attitude.
You just want to slap them when but that's what makes me vote for the SSB.
All right, Shawn.
Okay, I was wondering when we first talked about the SSB being a part of this. I think because of the fact that we named them the SSB and not the Dark Order, we're going to go with those memories as opposed to how they've been booked lately. Mm-hmm. And that's where definitely I would be going the SSB over the Empire. The Empire, I've seen some clips of them. They're more than just in Hamilton. They're all up and down that Lakeshore area, going up to Ottawa, and I think I even saw like Halliburton, whatever. going up and down that area and even into Kitchener. And yeah, they're a really dominant team. And they've got a couple different tag titles to their credit, representing different indie feds. But like Steve said, we've seen the SSB for years, and they just had no way of turning it on. Like Evil Uno, you see him obviously without a shirt or anything on like that on, and you're just like, this pile of goo is doing everything that he did. Like we saw him in singles action during the Northern tournament, and he was super impressive. And it's a shame that what they're doing with them in AEW with Dark Order did not pick up, and people were just like, who are you, from the moment they appeared. And so this whole cult building up thing kind of went stagnant. And unfortunately, there's with Brody Lee, which is great in a way because he has a name or at least a recognizable being to himself. But even he shouldn't be leading the Dark Order. But if you're looking at the SSB versus the Empire as a whole and throw them into an Ontario Arena Legion gymnasium, SSB is coming out on top.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Evil Uno without the shirt. I mean, you could obviously send a Hawaiian shirt to him if you wanted to, if you're not going to wear it for the show. But it's interesting as far as Evil Uno goes, because you mentioned the Northern tournament that we saw in Toronto, and then there is a picture here I have from London, and I think it's on the TNT website if you go to that top banner. But the fact is, it's Evil Uno doing old school against Cody Deaner, and he's up there and he's tight. He's walking that top rope, and it's like, holy crap, the guy's going to be 300 pounds and not in shape. I mean, he's in good ring shape, but he's not in shape. And he's walking that top rope. So it's you talk about his athletic ability is pretty cool. Then you get to Stu Grayson. And the fact is, he is, I think Tyson Dukes had mentioned, one of his best opponents ever. So, it's definitely hands down for me. Empire is still a new tag team to me. Like I said, JT Kirk as well as Matthew Grant. Grant is a former referee. And the thing is, outside of what they're doing as far as Empire goes, we've seen him referee at a Smash event. You know what I mean? He's just a passionate fan, passionate referee that turned into a wrestler. He's taken the gimmick as far as he can take it. And the fact is, he's got somewhat of a following there. Like I said, the Hamilton area, Shawn, you're talking about all the way down the Lakeshore and everything else. But they are a growing team. It'll be interesting to see if they're still together in 2 years. But when you talk about Dark Order, SSB, they're two separate entities, and the fact is, you can't go against the SSB as far as an Ontario Independent Wrestling Tag Team Tournament goes. So landslide for this one, 3-0. SSB moves on. So yeah, we've got our first second round match predicted. So Shawn, and I'm curious about your comments on this one, because the fact is, I know one of your picks was Physical Attraction. So next one is Physical Attraction, which consists of the Muscle and Violet Lee taking on Bear Country, which is Bear Boulder and Bear Bronson. Shawn, like I said, I'm curious where you're going to go with this. So your pick and why.
See, the way this matches up, I do love both the teams, but as much as I am a fan and friend of the Muscle and Violet Lee, and she's local hometown London girl, they're going to get mauled by these bears. Like this, the Wildlife Foundation needs to be involved with this whole thing. Like we saw Bear Country, first time ever, in my case, saw them at Super Showdown 7 in Toronto at the Rec Room in right basically the CN Tower area. And that was one of the last Smash events that they were able to have. And my God, just seeing those guys, they were so impressive. And had they not already been put into I believe Steven picked these guys for his picks, I probably would have picked them as well. Sorry, Muscles. Sorry, Violet. But you're going to get mauled by these guys if this were actually going to happen. We even saw what Boone did to Violet Lee with his German suplex that he did to her at the London Music Hall. And that was Kyle Boone. Imagine a bear doing that. Sorry. Bear Country moves on.
All right, Steven, your thoughts and why?
I have to go with Shawn. Don't get me wrong. I love the muscle. Violet Lee, definitely like watching her perform. But Bear Country, first time seeing him here at Super Showdown, and impressed the crap out of me. Too big. Shawn, you'd say they both had to be over 300 pounds. And they could move, and they could work, and they looked like they would eat you. Like, not like they would kill Violet Lee. I would be scared if this match was to happen. It's Bear Country. I hope that once this is over, Bear Country comes back to Smash. There's some very interesting tag matches.
I know I chanted, please come back.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Like, they were one of those teams that you saw and you're like, oh, I want to see them more, because they just hooked you. I know you didn't get to see him, Chris, but wow. It would be a mercy killing, and I'm going with Bear Country.
Yeah, I remember seeing your guys' comments from the show itself when unfortunately I had to work that day. But I was on YouTube earlier on today, and I was watching some of the stuff from, I guess, the East Coast that they had done down the States, and like, holy crap. The one guy reminds me of Brodus Clay. He's just that big. I mean, it looks scary in the ring. And when you look at this tag team, like huge tag team, like Twin Tower style, you know what I mean? They got the gimmicks down, everything else. But the fact is, you take these two huge monsters who I heard about you guys talking about, see these clips on YouTube, and you put them in the ring against the Muscle, who I think would hold his own. Like, he put up a fight, but I mean, against Violet Lee, nah. You know what I mean? Just see you later, take off to the back, Violet Lee, Muscle, destroy him, see you later, gone. Bear Country for the win. It's I hate to say it'd be a squash match, but I honestly think it would.
They would take the Muscle's animal crackers.
Yeah, and that's putting it simply. But it's interesting because we had all 16 teams, and it's like, how is this going to play out? And then when I see some of the matches, like, holy crap, and this was one of them. It's just Bear Country for the win, 3-0. It's there's no way in the world that I'd love to hear an argument about how Violet Lee and the Muscle would come out in a match against Bear Country and actually be victorious without having to use the Muscle's chain. You know what I mean? So. But
I would want they're smoking if that's.
But 3-0 and Bear Country for the win. So, Steven, you're up next. We go to fourth match, and that is Halal Beefcake. Idris Abraham and Joe Coleman taking on Baywatch, Joshua Pine, and Kyle Boone. Who's your pick and why?
I'm going Halal Beefcake. I mean, right now, they're the gold standard of Ontario tag team wrestling. I mean, I think they are probably better than just an Ontario tag team. Don't get me wrong, I like Kyle Boone, but this tag team that he's with, Joshua Pine, no. I think Halal Beefcake would mop the floor with him fairly quick. I think they just are probably my favorite in this tournament. I can't see them not winning the whole tournament just based on everyone. But I mean, I don't think Baywatch would even have a chance. Halal Beefcake is just too big, too strong, too fast, too much tag team experience.
So I'll really be surprised if Shawn doesn't give you an argument on this one. Shawn?
Well,
don't make me give you the Kenny Omega look.
I am going to go with Halal Beefcake as well, but the problem, and it's not because of any other reason than what you said. They are the top tag team. There is not any other reason why Smash Wrestling has kept the titles around their waist. Like, they brought the Revolt up from obscurity to popularity and being noticed on the tag team scene. Can they do the same thing for Baywatch? Probably. But it's going to be a lot harder to do with them than the Revolt. But, yeah, Halal Beefcake definitely has to take it. Like, there's no other reason why, like, they're, as said, over a year as the Smash Wrestling champions. And there's going to be a hard competition to take those belts off them. So, Halal Beefcake all the way.
Yeah, and not just as for the year as champions, but Ontario Independent Wrestling, indie wrestling as at that as as champions for the year. There was that hiccup as far as the revolt goes, but the fact is, Jordan James couldn't keep his drink to himself. You know what I mean, at home. But anyways, short story is this: Halal Beefcake is the tag team, as far as I'm concerned, in Ontario right now. I am surprised they are not signed by Impact Wrestling or AEW or ROH or heading to Japan to do, to get simply get their name out there. Because the fact is, when you watch these guys in the ring, they're entertaining. They're gifted as far as their ability to get on the microphone goes. They are in shape. Idris, when he gets bouncing off those ropes, it's like, holy crap, is he going to fly over to St. Thomas, because he's going so quick. But the fact is, in all fairness, I don't think there's a tag team that stands up to them as far as when you guys talk about Smash Wrestling goes right now. They are champions for a reason. They're entertaining. They're gifted. Even my wife, who's a non-wrestling fan, when she sees them, she's like, who are these guys? New Day style. And that's who my wife is a fan of. But fact is, as champions, as entertainers, as well as gifted athletes, Kyle Boone, he's getting there. And he was one of those guys when I saw the first day, being introduced to him in the ring, I was like, you know what? He's going to be something big. He's got that gift. He's not afraid to go to the top rope, and he's not afraid to learn and create his character. Joshua Pine, sort of the same thing, but I'm sorry, you put Josh Pine up against either one of these guys, and they're going to destroy him. I'm not going to go ahead.
They're too much of a comedy act at the moment also.
Yeah, I mean, Boone, as gifted as he is, the fact is, you can't take away from the greatest tag team in our region anyways. And that's not Ontario, but in our region as far as London or Toronto goes. Halal Beefcake all the way in this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the finals, but once again, 3-0 as far as movement goes for this one. So, Shawn, you're up next, and this is going to be interesting. Butcher and the Blade versus Fight or Flight. Who's your pick and why?
I am picking Fight or Flight in this case. A combination between Vertigo and Feroza is just astounding. Like, whether they're going against each other in the ring, I think they were one of their first opponents against each other, in the ring, were against each other, and they've made a phenomenal tag team with Fight or Flight. And then you get the Butcher and Blade. As much as I like Pepper Parks or whatever he wants to go by, the Blade right now, Andy Williams does not impress me at all. And with the monocle that you see him wearing in AEW as part of the Butcher and the Blade, and unfortunately, they're another tag team that people went, "Who are you?" And people in our area were like, "Oh, I know them," which is awesome, but are they really impressing? You don't see much of Allie with them. You hardly see them on TV. Okay, I understand the COVID-19 pandemic has stopped some people from being on AEW TV and stuff like that, but still, before that happened, people were like, meh. And as I said, you got Andy Williams looking like the long-lost brother of the Monopoly guy. And he's just not really impressing. You have him doing face-to-faces, and it's like, oh, okay, against Luchasaurus. Sorry, Andy Williams. Or, sorry, Butcher. And, yeah, I would go with Fight or Flight because they would definitely outwork the team of Butcher and Blade. They would Butcher and Blade's best asset would be trying to ground these guys, and they'd be hard to do so. So that's why I'm picking Fight or Flight.
All right, Steven, agree or disagree, and why?
I actually agree. I'm picking Fight or Flight. I mean, I've seen them against each other. I've seen them tag. Butcher and Blade, it popped me when I seen them pop up on AEW TV, but nah. I haven't seen them tag a ton together, and when I have, it's not been impressive. So I think Fight or Flight, they have that unique, like, high flying, but they're also good technical wrestlers who I could pay and watch. they also put their bodies on the line, and sometimes I have to close my eyes because I'm pretty sure one of them's going to die eventually. But that's a good thing. I enjoy fight or flight, and that's my pick.
All right, so once again, 3-0. The reason for it is because the fact is Butcher and Blade are good, but the fact is Andy Williams is the reason why I'm going against them, because when you think of the Butcher, you think of Pepper Parks, how much schooling he actually has. His wrestling school down in Buffalo, he is gifted. When you see him in Impact Wrestling, know that he was a guest coach at the Performance Center. Know the passion he has for the business. Know some of the guys he has trained. The fact is he's got skill, and he is a wrestler, so to speak. But the fact is Andy Williams is still learning, and that's just my viewpoint, but that is what this show is all about. Fight or flight, you've got guys like Gabriel Fuerza as well as Vaughn Vertigo. Vertigo can take it on his own. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that you can put a singles division championship on him, no problem at all. Which means if he was left alone in that ring against Pepper Parks, Butcher and Blade, the fact is he could still take that match. And the fact is he's got so much passion, so much skill. He's put on moves that I've never seen before as far as the wrestling business goes. But the fact is, when he comes right down to it, the fact is fight or flight, I think, would be too quick and too skilled for both Butcher and Blade. So again, 3-0 in this one. Fight or flight takes it home. So they are advancing next into the next round. So next match, Steven, to you first, TDT versus the Dirty Vets. Who's going to win and why?
I've only seen TDT once, but I've seen the Dirty Vets a few times in the Kitchener area when I lived there. I'm going to go with the Dirty Vets. I think they're just too big, too strong, too smart. They probably would end up cheating to win, which is entertaining to me. I would go Dirty Vets.
All right, quick and easy, Shawn.
This match would be basically a lot of plunder, hardcore. Rules would have to be thrown out the window just to see any winner come out of this. Like, they would take it all over the place, out of the ring, in the stands, tables, everything would be used with these guys, even doors. I am impressed with TDT and what they can do, and just the mixture of, they have their size, but they're also agile and almost a little bit like Bear Country in their sort of presentation. And that's why I'm picking TDT over the Dirty Vets, even though Notorious TID's in that group.
All right, so this was a tough decision for me, because here you got Uncle Custom, Marcus Ryan, Custom Made Man, and Notorious TID, Chris Tidwell as in a tag team. And I remember seeing these guys for the Hardcore Wrestling Federation. Was it Federation back in the day, back in London, Shawn?
Yeah, I think it's HWF.
Yeah, so I remember seeing these guys way back at Medway Arena here in London, Ontario. Back at Centennial Hall, and this was probably late 90s, I would say. So when you want to talk about that Dirty Vets nickname, that name of the tag team, they are it, and they are experienced guys that know about the business and know what to do in the business. They're tough as nails, and the fact is, I agree with Shawn. The fact is, it would come down to a huge ass brawl. Tables, chairs, doors, all over the arena. But the fact is, TDT is one of the best known tag teams in the Quebec scene. They have wrestled for Ontario, which makes them part of this tournament, because they have wrestled in Ontario, which made them available to be picked for the tournament. TDT, rough house style as well. But the thing is, when you come down to it and you think of Thomas Dubois and you think of Matthew St. Jacques, they are two guys independently that can go on their own as well. And again, what I was saying about Vaughn Vertigo, you put either one of those guys in the ring individually, and I think they'd still be able to be tough as nails, to be able to take it to the next match, to take it to the next round. So as much as I love the Dirty Vets, and as much as I love the history behind them, and as much as I love the personal history that I've seen and witnessed here in London, Ontario, the fact is I've got to go TDT in this one. So 2-1 vote, TDT moves on. But yeah, it was one of those tough choices. Not the toughest choice in the first round, but that was one of my tough choices. Shawn, you're next. So we go from TDT and the Dirty Vets into what I would call virtually match of the night, and I still, honest to God, haven't made a pick on this. I will once my stupid words come out of my mouth, but the Pillars, which is Tyson Dukes and Brent Banks, taking on the well-oiled machines, that's Psycho Mike Rollins and Pepper Parks. This is, like I said, match of the night for me. I still haven't made a decision as far as this goes. I know who I'm leaning towards, but Shawn, who's your pick and why?
Well, this match actually did happen, as we know, numerous times over the while, about 2 years ago-ish, year and a half. And it was for the Smash Tag Team titles. And the Smash titles were originally held by the well-oiled machines. And I guess it's a good thing that this wasn't the well-oiled machines against Butcher and the Blade. Because then, of course, you'd have Pepper right in the middle between the two things and who to pick in that case. But, yeah, well-oiled machines are an amazing team. But you're also talking about the Pillars, Brent Banks and Tyson Dukes. Like, they have so much experience behind them. Different styles, whether you're doing high flying in the case of Brent Banks or the ground and pound fundamentals mat wrestling of Tyson Dukes. And I think that's why, in the end, they ended up winning the tag team titles away from the well-oiled machines originally. And that's why I'm going to go with the Pillars, Brent and Tyson.
This one isn't as hard for me as it is for you guys, and you guys can probably guess why. But I'm going Pillars. Brent Banks, Tyson Dukes, by far. They have everything. They have the high flying. They have the technical, like Shawn said. They have what would make me want to come and watch them. Well-oiled machine? No. I'm not into the comedy at all.
What's wrong with what's in the box match?
Really? Really? We really want to have that conversation? It's just as bad as the horseshit tag match that me and Chris had to fight about.
This is fantasy warfare. This is in TNT. Come on now.
Yeah, well, thank God for that. I think Brent Banks and probably will be a future Smash Wrestling champion. He's got, like his nickname, the money. He's I'm surprised not signed to an ROH, Impact, AEW. I'm also quite surprised that Tyson Dukes isn't. I don't know if he just doesn't want to, but he's got that veteran presence that a lot of the mainstream wrestling rosters need desperately. So I'm going Pillars.
All right. So as I was listening to you guys comment, my vote is this: well-oiled machines. I know I've been outvoted at this point, but my reasons for it is this: you can't bet against Mike Rollins. Pepper Parks, exactly what I said as far as the wrestling mentality. He is a wrestler. The fact is, when I think of Tyson Dukes and Brent Banks, yes, they are part of the Pillars, but to me, they are more individual wrestlers than they are a tag team. And saying that, anytime I've ever saw the well-oiled machines, including the What's in the Box ladder match for the tag team championships at Super Showdown 6, I saw them as a tag team. Gimmick match, comedy match, whatever case you want to call it. But the fact is, they know how to work as a tag team. They are former tag team champions. The fact is, individually, they can hold their own. And the fact is, they would have taken it to basically Tyson and Brent Banks. But again, this comes down to a voting system. I am outvoted. But
would this have been a handicap match if the Conscience was involved?
I guess it would have been. So a 3-on-2. And Steven shaking his head. But anyway, case in point, the fact is I have been avoided, but my official vote is the well-oiled machines. But Pillars are moving on in this one. So I believe it's back to Steven here. And it is the final match of the first round. So Kill Screen, Anthony Gaines, and Scotty O'Shea, the hacker, taking on the Space Pirates, which is Shane Saber and Space Monkey. Steven, your thoughts and who's going to win?
Can you guess who I'm voting for? It would not be the monkey and the pirate. I actually Killscreen was one of my picks. I think Killscreen had something when they won that tag tournament. I forgot what they were called. What was it called? I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah, it was the tournament. Usually it was the Faithful Eight, but this
That was it. The Faithful Eight.
But in that case, they did a bunch of different organizations, and each of them had representatives, and it came down to them in the finals.
Yes. But I think the Hacker and Anthony Gaines had a lot of momentum going at one point. I love the gimmick. Scotty O'Shea, I think, probably could be, with one of the major organizations. He has that arrogant, but he's got that character down. This whole kill screen is I enjoy. And Anthony Gaines was that little twerp heel that you just wanted to hit, but he could work. And that, when I saw them face off against Physical Attraction in London and what they did to Violet Lee, it was the greatest thing ever. How they just made you want to climb in that ring and save her and beat the crap out of her. It reminded me of old school tag team wrestling that I grew up on. You wanted to climb in there and save the faces and help them. They had the it factor. We're not sure what happened to them or if we'll see them again, but they definitely had something at that point. And so Kill Screen's my pick. And this is where I know I'll be outvoted.
All right, Shawn. Shawn, who's your pick?
I have to agree with you, Steven, that I loved Kill Screen. The moments that you talked about, definitely. Unfortunately, we don't know what happened with Kill Screen. They had a lot of momentum going for them. Some possible behind-the-scenes activity went against them, for lack of better terms. And we don't know where Kill Screen actually sits now. We never got to finish off that story, even including the stuff with Kevin Blackwood. So that unfortunately went to a screeching halt with a lot of different problems that happened, whether it was travel or personal backstage issues that came up. However, I did choose Space Pirates because they were one of my picks that I put into the tournament. And come on, you can't go wrong with a monkey who, when you see him at the merch stand, he still lives that gimmick and talks to you in monkey. And we brought bananas a couple times whenever he's been there to have a banana bash, sort of like a Steve Austin beer bash. And of course, you got to love a pirate. And when you mix those two together, they actually are a really good tag team. And I enjoy watching them. I've only actually seen them a couple times as a team, at least in this area. But I know they've done a lot in the Hamilton area where they're from, along with Scotty O'Shea, because they're actually friends with them and did the whole McNugget challenge on Scotty's birthday a couple of years ago. And that's just a mess to look back on. A lot of puking and everything going on with way more McNuggets than anybody should ever have. But I am going with the Space Pirates.
I thought I liked you, Shawn. God damn it.
Well, man, we're not even into the second round yet. All right. So I'd taken kind of a hiatus from independent wrestling for a while. And then first show I went to again was at Fanshawe College. I believe it was like February or March, a whole bunch of years ago. Not Space Pirates, but Space Monkey was on that show, as well as a lot of other characters as well. The two people that stood out that night were Space Monkey, and I couldn't understand why Shawn had brought fucking bananas to this event. And I was like, okay. And he goes, yeah, just wait and see. And then sure enough, Tyson Dukes was on that show as well. So those are the two guys, the two images that lasted as far as my return to watching independent wrestling again. Case in point, a whole bunch of years later, the amount that the Space Pirates have accomplished as far as tag team wrestling and as well as individually. And Shawn's right about this. Okay, Space Monkey, he lives and breathes that character. The fact is, he did a podcast with Colt Cabana, and the whole podcast was him as Space Monkey. It wasn't the guy behind the Space Monkey. It was him as Space Monkey. So when you get a guy like that and you see him in the ring, he's entertaining. Then you got Shane Saber, who is a gifted wrestler. And you want to talk about Kill Screen. He was part of Kill Screen. You know what I mean? So you take Shane Saber, put him up against Scotty O'Shea, Anthony Gaines. The fact is, I like Scotty O'Shea. He's basically one of those guys you love to hate. Anthony Gaines was growing on me as a wrestler, and then the whole bunch of shit went down as far as the politics of Ontario independent wrestling goes. But the fact is, you can't take away from the Kill Screen gimmick. It was working for them. They had won that tournament, and the fact is, unfortunately, it didn't play out the way it should have. But you want to talk longevity, you want to talk about who should go on in this one, I say Space Pirates. Steven, go ahead, hate that. But anyway, Space Pirates for the win in this one. That concludes round one, guys, and we are about almost 50 minutes in. I'm just going to finish up doing this bracket. Guys, just while I'm finishing the bracket, I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. Your thoughts on the first round, as well as any surprises, just personally?
Well, myself, I actually thought I'd be voted for the Butcher Blade and Fight or Flight. Really, and I also really was surprised by Shawn's pick on Physical Attraction Bear Country.
Hey, just because I happen to know them and like them doesn't mean they're going to advance.
That was the one that shocked me. I expected. Me and Shawn talked earlier. I had a stupid suspicion Space Pirate was going to move on, so I did watch a couple extra matches of theirs. I like Shane Saber, don't get me wrong, but
you just can't get into the monkey.
No, like I couldn't get into Shark Boy. Like I can't get into Michael Nakazawa with his fucking underwear in his hand.
Well, I can agree with you on that one.
When I was watching, Space Monkey impressed me with his like in wrestling, like in ring stuff, but no, not a monkey. I can't.
If it were not for the gimmick, it would be a potential.
Yes, it's the gimmick.
All right, so we've discovered that Steven is not a fan of gimmicks, so to speak.
Steven's a fan of gimmicks, but not stupid gimmicks.
All right, we'll have to get Steven's thoughts on a future episode or so. What gimmicks he actually does like, but I don't know if we'll be able to fit that in within 90 minutes or so.
Yeah, that could be an episode of best gimmicks, and then also an episode of worst gimmicks.
Mm-hmm. But what happens if the best gimmicks are the worst gimmicks? Then what do we do?
It depends on what people put in as their picks.
All right.
It could be debated.
So, second round, as you can see there on the screen, is this: the Revolt taking on the SSB, and we're gonna do this fair. So, after I read this, I'm gonna take like a minute or so just to basically pick my picks. I'm not just gonna do it on the spot. You guys do the same thing as well. But second round, we got the Revolt, the SSB, Bear Country taking on Halal Beefcake. We've also got Fight or Flight taking on TDT. And then the Pillars, so Brent Banks and TD Tyson Dukes taking on the Space Pirates. So that is round two for you. And like I said, brackethq.com is what I'm using here just to be able to, do this properly and show you guys on the screen as well. So I'm going to end that there. Guys, have you made your picks yet as far as second round goes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So while you guys are doing that, I'm going to bring this back up again, and that way I can make my picks while you guys are chatting away. The second round, first matchup is going to be the Revolt taking on the SSB. Shawn, we'll start with you. Who's going to win and why?
Well, once again, I am going to go with SSB to advance. As much as I complimented the Revolt on how well they've excelled from being at the factory, starting at the back of a velodrome, moving on to the warehouse or gym setting that they are at right now. Everything that Halal Beefcake did bring out of them, still not enough to take down the SSB, especially under the SSB moniker and the legend that we know them to be, not the Dark Order. Dark Order would lose to the Revolt, but the SSB would beat the Revolt. So that's why I'm picking SSB.
All right, Steven?
I'm surprised. I thought this might be a real quick and easy one. My first instinct was the SSB, just because of everything we said in the past. But I'm going with the Revolt. I think they're the future of Ontario tag wrestling. SSB was the past. I think the Revolt would be too fast. They would be, they'll naturally be way quicker than Evil Uno. I think they're more dynamic now. If this was 10 years ago, there'd be no doubt in my mind SSB would probably beat a lot of teams back then. But the Revolt, I think they're the future. They're the up and coming. They're who we're going to be watching for the next 20 years, hopefully. I'm going the Revolt. I think they would win it. I think their speed is just too much for the SSB to handle.
So I agree with you with regards to the fact that the Revolt are the future in tag team wrestling. However, SSB has way too much experience. Stu Grayson has way too much talent, and Uno has all those dirty tactics to be able to win this match for them. So I think the Revolt puts up a fight, but the fact is, like I said, with Stu Grayson and the amazing talent that he has, and Evil Uno to be able to do what he does, even as a singles wrestler, like we saw. But the fact is, he knows how to pull out those dirty tactics when he needs to. He's also got the creepers on hand. The fact is, when it comes down to it, I think SSB is way too much for the Revolt, and the fact is, they are former Smash Wrestling Tag Team Champions. All over the place from London, Ontario, all the way through Ottawa. They are a well-established team. Unfortunately, like I said, Revolt, yes, I agree. The fact is future, but the fact is not now. So SSB to move on in this one. Steven, your thoughts on the next match first. Bear Country taking on Halal Beefcake. Who wins and why?
This might, I know you said the Pillars Well-Oiled was it TDT and Dirty Vets you thought would be the one you were most looking forward to first round?
No, that one was going to be one of those huge kind of barroom type fights. It was the Pillars and the Well Machines that I was having a tough time with.
I think, and this is where I am, I think this would steal any show, would headline any show. I'm torn. I mean, Bear Country is amazing, but I'm going Halal Beefcake. They're the gold standard here in Ontario for Ontario tag wrestling. I think it would be a hell of a match. I would love to see Smash actually sign that match. I think it could be your main event most nights of the week, but I think Halal Beefcakes would find a way to win. They would, with the protein powder or some way, they would steal the victory. But I mean, I think this would be this is a coin flip. This could be, you could have this match 10 times to go 5-5. I think it would be that close and that split, but I'm going Halal Beefcake just because they would find a way to win by hook or by crook.
All right, Shawn?
Well, I agree on your fact that Halal Beefcake would have to use all their little tactics, including the protein powder, Idris with his speed, Coleman with his distractions and everything. And you might be able to distract a bear here and there. Maybe they'll bring out a picnic basket and stuff to distract them with. But they're going to get mauled again. And if you're looking for a tag team that could eventually step up and take those tag team titles away from Halal Beefcake, Bear Country is that tag team that has that potential to do so. Halal Beefcake, I said earlier, brought out the best in the Revolt, has the potential to bring out a really good side of Baywatch. Bear Country, ouch. Like, these guys already look good. Going against Halal Beefcake, yeah, these are the guys you said. They could do 10 matches and it would be split. But in the end, Bear Country will be your new tag team champions. I'm going Bear Country.
So I had a tough time making a decision in this one. It wasn't as hard as Stevens, but the fact is, it's a tough match because you have two experienced guys like Halal Beefcake who look like champions, are champions, and know how to work well together against this team. Again, I still haven't seen live, but the clips that I've seen and the passion that you guys had after seeing them, and even right now you guys are talking about them highly. Fact is, I think when it comes down to it, I think Bear Country is going to be too powerful for Halal Beefcake. So it's also that newness. It's the fact that as much as the Sultan of Shawarma and the Genetic Jackpot, as well as they are as a tag team and the tricks that they could pull out, I think Bear Country just be way too dominant and oversized, power-wise, everything else. I think it'd just be too much for Halal Beefcake. So I've got to go Bear Country in this one. Again, it's like that Dirty Vets match against TDT. I think it'd be all over the place. But I think in the end, I think Bear Country takes this. I'd love to see a real match between these two tag teams. So whoever wants to book it, I will be the first guy to sign up, buy tickets, be front row, whatever. I'll freaking referee.
Clarence Doug. Hello.
Yeah.
Midwestern, Smash, whatever the case may be. But book that match when this COVID shit's over with. But Bear Country for the win. Steven, I think we're back to you. So Fight or Flight versus TDT, who wins and why?
I'm going to go Fight or Flight. I think the speed, the agility, the Von Vertigo factor, it's too much for TDT to overcome. Fight or Flight would want to keep it in the ring, not bring in all the plunder. But I really think Fight or Flight would win this. Just sheer hit and run tactics and just use their speed to outwork TDT. I know TDT would have the strength advantage, but Fight or Flight would have the speed, and I'm definitely would go Fight or Flight.
Shawn, what about you?
Well, I'm going to go with TDT. I think Fight or Flight are going to try and take it to TDT using the same tactics, plus add in their aerial. And we've seen what TDT can also do aerial-wise and fly around that ring as well. And you try and match each other. That way, the strength is going to take them out in this case. And I see them going through a door. A nice little power bomb off a stage, through a door. Thank you for coming out, Fight or Flight. I love that tag team, but TDT is advancing.
And Shawn, you get my vote on that one as well, simply because of the fact that TDT, when you look at tag teams, they are just that. Now, individually, like I said before, they are both skilled wrestlers that can go singles, no problem at all. But the fact is, when you think about a tag team, I could see them basically catching Gabrielle or catching Von Vertigo as they're in mid-move and basically turning what looks like a hurricanrana into like a freaking power bomb. You know what I mean? I think they're just way too powerful and gifted, skilled tag team-wise. They are tag team wrestling. It's like the Dudley Boys. You know what I mean? You never want to see them separated, but when they were, they tried their best. But the fact is they work better as a tag team. Von Vertigo, Gabriel Foreza, like I said, great as a tag team of Fight or Flight, but the fact is I think they, there's no way in the world to be able to beat TDT. And again, Smash Wrestling, Midwestern Wrestling, any company out there, book that as well. If it is out there, send us a link on YouTube or from YouTube, whatever the case may be, because I'd love to see that firsthand. But TDT in this one going over. Shawn, what was that about?
I think actually there might have been a match up in maybe Quebec or something with these guys. I think it did get put through a door.
So interesting. So I'll have to go looking for that one after the shows are over. But so that is it. TDT goes over. And then Shawn, back to you for the final match of the second round. The Pillars, Brent Banks, as well as Tyson Dukes taking on the Space Pirates. Who's going to win and why?
The experience is with the Pillars. Tyson will laugh at Space Monkey and at Shane Saber, and just it'd be the Dr. D smacking John Stossel again. Just bam, and you smarten them up. I do fundamental mat wrestling, and the Pillars would move on. Would this be a high flying match? Yeah, probably, especially if Banks is in there. But the moment Tyson gets tagged in, we're going to ground and pound, and yeah, goodbye, Space Pirates.
Steven, I'm going to put it to you. I no reason why, but pretty sure I know where you're going with your pick.
I almost want to see Space Pirates win so I could eventually see them face Bear Country just to hear how Bear Country would eat a monkey, because, well, that would be hilarious. But Pillars would kill him. I mean, Tyson Dukes would get in the ring with the stupid monkey and kill him. It'd be the greatest thing ever. Don't get me wrong. I love Shane Saber. Seen him in Kill Screen. I've seen him as the Pirate. That's not my favorite way to present him, but I think the Pillars would just be too fast, too strong, too quick, too much experience, and I think the Pillars would win quite easily, actually.
All right, so I think we have our first 3-0 in the second round here. I got to go Pillars as well. Our reason for it, as much as Monkey and Shane Saber are a gifted tag team, the fact is Tyson Dukes, Brent Banks are way just too strong and powerful for them. Tyson is the wrestling god as far as Ontario Independent Wrestling goes. Brent Banks is the champion that should be champion that I don't believe has ever been given that chance. Individually, they're superstars, but the fact is when you've got skill and power in old school wrestling like Tyson Dukes, hooked up with a guy like Brent Banks, who just doesn't seem like there's a move that he can't perform. I think they'd just be way too powerful for the Space Pirates. So first 3-0 in this one. So it looks like the Pillars of Tyson Dukes and Brent Banks are going to move on. So guys, any surprises in your guys' thoughts as far as victories go? And just while I'm getting ready to show the semifinals here, what are your thoughts on the concept of this tournament so far? I mean, we're looking at probably about 90 minutes. So 16 teams, 90 minutes looks to be about a good time for it. But what are you guys liking about this tournament so far?
In this case, it's something that we definitely are closer to as far as knowing and seeing the participants in this. The 90 minutes seems to be working well as a window to look at. When it's just the three of us, we could be expanding to about 2 hours if we can get two more guests to join us with their experience, whoever wants to sign up and join us in that regard. But it also depends on the content. There is possibly going to be some more heated debate down the road, depending on what it is coming up, because some people, just as an example, Steve was saying about doing 80s tag teams. Well, if you ever put LOD against Demolition, depends on what you grew up on. Demolition has always been known as the ripoffs of the LOD, but if you started watching WWE first, Demolition is your original and LOD is your ripoff. So it depends on where your alliance is and what you grew up on. Some of these debates are going to get even more intense. We've been doing good this evening, just running it down. Maybe a little bit of debate, but it hasn't been anything intense. I look forward to some more shows in the future where the content is going to get crazy, and who knows where it's going to go. Sometimes we've been doing the 3-0 without any problem, but when we have higher degree of things to talk about, anything's possible with this show.
I agree. I think 90 minutes for three of us is probably the right amount. But could you imagine Halal Beefcake, Bear Country first round if this randomizer? There would have been a lot more. I mean, I think I agree with Shawn. Like, I grew up on, my first memories are WWE, so like Demolition. LOD to me was the ripoff, but some people will be the opposite. I think it'd be interesting. Worst gimmicks, best gimmicks. I have a feeling that would be quite heated. I'm not sure why, Chris. I'm looking at you, but I have a feeling me and you would disagree on some of that.
But I think we can all agree that the Powers of Pain was a ripoff of all of them.
Oh, that was horseshit.
Hey, piss on both of you guys. I'll tell you this. So I was well aware of the Road Warriors LOD well before Demolition. But the fact is, to me, getting older in time, the fact is you appreciate LOD Road Warriors for more than what they just were, okay? But when I was a kid, when I was growing up, my teenage years, WrestleMania 4, 5, 6, yada, 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 I couldn't get enough of Demolition. The music, the gear, the face paint, them winning the tag team championships back against Colossal Connection at WrestleMania 6. I marked it. I still mark it. They had a Demolition Spotlight magazine, which was all about demolition with this big old poster in the middle. I was one of the first guys to buy it that I knew about as a wrestling fan. I couldn't get enough of these guys. The legacy-wise, history-wise, yes, LOD for sure. Road Warriors, they're way the hell up here. Demolition's way down here. Demolition was a WWE product. Vince McMahon saying, hey, this is what we're going to do to the Road Warriors LOD. And then all of a sudden LOD comes into WWF, and then next thing you know, they squashed Demolition to the fact that all of a sudden Repo Man exists. You know what I mean? Billy D has a falling out. Crush turns into what he did. So be it. But you guys are right about it. The fact is, we're talking about Ontario Independent Wrestling Tag Teams because I thought it was a good sidestep to Shawn's tournament that he does for the Scumbags of Wrestling. So why not do tag teams, right? But I think we get into tag team wrestling as a whole. North American tag teams, worldwide tag teams. We talk about greatest Canadians. We can talk about greatest wrestling commentators. I think that would be a huge one. And the fact is, this is only three of us. You know what I mean? 90-minute show for three of us, topics. And we're sharing our points, highlights, why we think these tag teams are moving on. But we get five of us on the show, and next thing you know, it's like you have a Bear Country versus a Halal Beefcake in the first round. Yeah, damn, thing would explode. But we are TNT. We are Thursday Night Throwdown. We are all about detonation and exploding. And the fact is, we will eventually crown a TNT championship on a future episode, maybe as far as, whoever wants to be a guest and giving them props or whatever the case may be. But anyways, it will continue. We've got 4 teams left in this, like I said, semifinals. SSB taking on Bear Country. And then to the next one. Oops, I'm trying to move the wrong screen. We go here. TDT taking on the Pillars, Brent Banks and Tyson Dukes. Guys, do you have your picks already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shawn was like a hesitant, yeah, but I'll take your word for it. So who did we go with first last time? Was it Steven, or I think Steven was for? Well, okay, Shawn, since that, yeah, all right. So we'll get your thoughts first. So we got SSB taking on Bear Country. Who's going to win and why?
Bear Country. They're going to maul all the way through this. Creepers are just going to be little snacks, like little chipmunks in the forest for these guys. They going against Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, going to be one hell of a match. But the youth, I think, is going to outdo the experience in this case. Normally, as I said earlier with SSB over Revolt, the experience was going to go over the rookies. But Bear Country seems to have it all together. There you got the size. They're bigger than Stu Grayson. They can equal Evil Uno, both of them, even individually or not. And just I see, in the end, Bear Country coming out on top.
All right, Steven, agree or disagree, and why?
Yeah, I'm Bear Country. I think they have the complete package. They have the power that would match Uno. And we saw some of it, Shawn, in Toronto, the agility. Like that. The one picked up the other one on their shoulders like it was nothing and then squashed. I forgot. Sorry? Yeah, the electric chair. They squashed. I forget who they were wrestling, but I thought, oh, those people are dead. I'm pretty sure they were just mauled by bears. Because these two big, they're like 6 feet plus, 300 plus pounds that move fairly good, fairly quick, and they just have the strength. Like Bear Country would kill them. It would be a mercy killing. Another one. I'm going Bear Country.
All right, so not a 3-0 in this win. It's 2-1. So I'll give you guys this. I did see a YouTube clip of the bigger guy. I don't know if it's Bronson, had ran across from corner to corner, jumped on the second turnbuckle, and then did a moonsault onto the guy. I'm like, holy shit. If I had ever seen, like I said, Brodus Clay, who I compared him to, do something like that, I would have been marked out. But you guys, got to see them live and everything else. So you're, about the agility, sloppiness, whatever the case may be. But any clips I've ever seen of these guys, any of the highlights, these guys are prime as far as tag team wrestling goes. And like I said, I can't wait to see them, book them in a Smash or Midwestern Ring or Barry Wrestling or whatever the case may be. But the fact is, I did go SSB in this one. I'm a huge fan of these guys, and the internet was shitting on these guys when they went to AEW, and I hated it. And Shawn, your Scumbags group, we were all for kind of, hey, this is the SSB, give them a chance. And the next thing the gimmick starts going sour. And then the fact is, like, okay, what are they doing with these guys? To the point that, COVID's obviously happening. But the fact is, with Brody Lee, I want to see what they're able to do in AEW. But on this show, on this tournament, the fact is SSB was my pick. And you guys have heard it all show long why. But again, I'm going to vote it in this one. So Bear Country is going to the finals. And it'll be interesting to see who they're going to go up against. So, Steven, your final pick for the semifinals is coming up, and it's going to be TDT taking on the Pillars, Brent Banks and Tyson Dukes. Who's your pick and why?
I'm going Pillars. I think, again, speed and agility from Brent Banks, the sheer technical Tyson Dukes, and we've seen it in London where Tyson Dukes powerbombed someone through a table or door.
That was Mr. Carter Mason at Fanshawe College, the last show that took place, yeah?
No, this was at Lund Music Hall. It was
probably the with the Halal Beefcake and the tables matches and having to try and break a table a couple times just to get it to go.
Yes. I think Pillars, I think Tyson Dukes straight up technical and Brent Banks' flash, I think would beat TDT. I think it'd be another all over brawl, but I'm going Pillars. I think Pillars.
Yeah, I'm having this one's my coin toss. You had one with which way to go, and obviously I'm going to go with the Pillars in this case. They are, I would say, the more sound team between the two that are going against each other. However, I would like to see TDT against Bear Country. That would just be almost like I said earlier with TDT and the Dirty Vets. Like, just all-out brawl, and that could go probably a half hour before they'd even tire out and have the dust settle. But I am going to go with the Pillars taking out TDT.
So we've got our second 2-1 in a row here. To me, if you talk about fantasy warfare, TDT versus Bear Country would be absolutely amazing. TDT versus SSB would be absolutely amazing. Those are my final two picks right there. But the fact is, being outvoted in this one, Bear Country versus TDT would have been phenomenal. But again, another match maybe down the road we could see in an Ontario Independent Wrestling ring. You guys both vote Pillars. Tyson Dukes, Brent Banks, it was a toss-up as well. But the fact is, potential-wise, yes, my vote was with TDT. But again, it's a voting system. I am outvoted 2-1. So we have a final setup. Guys, your guys' thoughts on, and I'm going to update the bracket and then bring it up on screen, but your guys' thoughts on a TDT versus Bear Country match. Here you got two teams from outside of Ontario Independent Wrestling taking place. How would you book the match? Would you immediately think no DQ, or what would you guys do with it if it was TDT versus Bear Country?
Oh, it'd definitely be no DQ, whatever. You could even do it as a tables match, but just, no DQ and see who is left standing at the end of it all.
Yeah, that would be something. There would be tables, and I'm sure there'd be doors, because I'm pretty sure you need a door to put one of those bears through, because I don't know if a table could hold them real easy. It would be something. I would be I'd want to be not ringside for that match. I want to be a few rows back.
All right, guys. So here we go. Finals are up on the screen here. So SSV being defeated by Bear Country, TDT being defeated by the Pillars, Brent Banks, and Tyson Dukes. So your finals are Bear Country taking on the Pillars, Brent Banks, and Tyson Dukes to determine the very first inaugural winners of the Fantasy Warfare tournament for Ontario Independent Wrestling Tag Teams here. So have you guys made your picks on, or a major pick on who you're going to decide as champion?
Do you notice whose picks these two teams were?
What, Bear Country and the Pillars?
Yeah, who recommended them in this?
I'm not sure. Just random names popped up on my Facebook Messenger one day.
I was surprised how Beefcake. I mean, they had the crappy draw to draw Bear Country, but I mean, I would love to see this matchup in any Ontario ring. Sign me up, take my money, let me go watch it. This would be something.
All right, so we're gonna do this as far as the finals goes. We're gonna break it down just a little bit more. So your thoughts on who's gonna win, your thoughts on why, and your thoughts on how the match is going to end. So we'll keep rotating here. Shawn, we'll get your thoughts first. Who's gonna win, why they're gonna win, and how they're gonna win. And then we'll go to Steven, and then we'll go to myself. So obviously I'm going to be the tiebreaker in this one, but I will make my vote before listening to these two guys here. So guys, thoughts on who's going to win, why, and how?
This is another match, like Steven said, that to see live, and regardless of where you are in that building, this is a matchup you do not want to go to the washroom for. Like, I think it depends on who gets the advantage. If the Pillars end up using sort of Tyson over Brent, then Tyson's going to do a lot more as far as grounding the Bears and having them work a more fundamental ground and pound chain wrestling style. But if the Bears are able to get a hold of Brent Banks and isolate him and take him away from Tyson, then they have a way of just annihilating Brent, and they'll take it. I'm going to go with Bear Country to win, because they would have actually been part of my picks had Steve not sent his in just before me.
I think it would be a hell of a match. I think, again, depending on who's in the ring, I think Bear Country mauls Brent Banks, but Tyson Dukes, I think, could hold his own. I think it would be a long, hell of a match, and I would pay money to see this. I'm going Bear Country because I think Bear Country is too big, too strong. I think they just end up hitting just too much on Brent Banks, and he can't come back after being mauled by two 6-foot plus guys, 300 plus pounds. The weight, the size is,
and they're well rounded.
Yes. Oh, and they can do things that big men shouldn't be able to do. I think Bear Country is just too much. They're too well rounded as a tag team, like Shawn just said. I think Bear Country wins. Be a long match and it'd be a good match, but I think Bear Country wins. just the strength and everything is just too much for them to overcome.
So there you go, folks. Winners are Bear Country because basically my vote did not matter. Anyways, my vote was this. I'll see if I can hold it up to the screen. But the very last match there is, Pillars. I picked the Pillars. Reason for it, Brent Banks' speed as well as gifted ability. Tyson Dukes is one of those guys in this tournament that could have taken it to Bear Country. He's I mean, for the guy his size, he's as powerful as a guy as he is. He's old school wrestler, So Bear Country go up to their kind of heel tactics or whatever the case may be. But the fact is, Tyson's one of those guys who could take it to them. Again, another one of those matches you could put on a show here in Ontario, independent wrestling in any kind of ring, and a lot of fans would pay to see Bear Country taking on the Pillars, or TDT or whatever the case may be. But again, this tournament comes down to how we think. How the match is going to go. If I'm going to book that match, it's going to be basically Brent Banks gets wiped out. Tyson Dukes comes into the ring, hits, his the Tommy Dreamer move there. The driver. Yes, Death Valley Driver. Locks one of these guys into an STF or Boston Crab or Sharpshooter, whatever the case may be. And because the match had gone on for so long, I'd say probably 20-minute match. The fact is the bigger guys would be exhausted, would be forced to tap out. So Tyson Dukes for the win. But again, this is Fantasy Warfare tournament, and this was the Ontario Independent Wrestling tag team part of it. Winners are Bear Country in this, so congrats to them. It is interesting to see and to do this show for the very first time to see how it was going to play out. 90 minutes is what I had kind of allocated towards it. We're at an hour and 24 minutes, was kind of cool. So 6 minutes to spare. Guys, your thoughts on the tournament itself, as well as maybe what do you want to do about second show? Do you want to name it now? Do you want to put it up to a vote? I think we should put it up to a vote. As TNT is still getting established as far as our Facebook group goes, I wouldn't mind doing a vote on Shawn's Scumbags of Wrestling group. Maybe pick 5 topics, so to speak, of what we could talk about next show. The cool thing is we're not doing it live, and I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but the fact is we have more time. We don't have to do it live on a Friday at 6 p.m. We can do it on a Saturday at midnight if we wanted to, if we're all up for it. You know what I mean? Fact is, it's not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded. It's going to be exclusive to our Patreon, which I'm going to put up the link right now. So right there. So patreon.com/TN Throwdown. CA is the official account for it. That is going to be exclusive content, and you're going to see a lot more than that. We've got I've done lots of podcasts in the past 20 years. Not as many as Shawn, though. Shawn's up to 102, 103 at this point, but mine are up there. I'd say probably about 50 podcasts in total, from the stuff I was doing early 2000s to the Sharpshooter podcast, which I had done, to TNT, obviously, and this here. It's going to be a lot of old school exclusive content, interviews that I've done in my life, as well as this is where you're going to be able to see the Fantasy Warfare tournament happen. You're always going to see 3 of us or 5 of us. You'll never see 2 or 4 because of the fact it does come down to a vote. And again, the 3-0s or whatever the case may be, but there are going to be 2-1s or 4-1s or 5-0s or whatever the case may be. But again, patreon.com/TN Throwdown CA. There are separate tiers on there right now, as Shawn's trying to cut me off. Shawn, why don't you cut me off, because I'm going to bring up the actual Patreon page.
Well, the only reason why I'm cutting you off is what you said on our last TNT of the where the money is going to go to for Patreon.
Yes. Do you want me to announce it, or do you want to talk about that? I'm sorry. I think we were talking at the same time. Do you want to say something, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you can.
All right. So as I'm still bringing up the Patreon account, I'm going to multitask here. I'm still learning about this Patreon thing where everything is, but I'm getting better at it. Fact is, with everything that's happening with COVID, everything that's happening on the Ontario independent wrestling scene, the Canadian independent wrestling scene, wrestling worldwide. The reason for doing the show TNT was basically because we want to talk about wrestling. I wanted to put it on the live format. Shawn was willing to be part of it as well, amongst all of his own stuff. Now, again, life is going to get busy. He's going to have like 50 shows out there a week. His wife will probably hate him, but the fact is he'll be providing exclusive content for everybody out there. In saying that, everybody hears and talks about Patreon. And the fact is, you know, you're going to be listening to this on Patreon as well as YouTube and Facebook and this and that. I wanted a way to earn money as one, first and foremost, to get support from the wrestling community, and not financial support from you guys, but just to know who's listening, to who's watching, to get feedback from you guys, what you want to see us doing, what kind of interviews you want to see us hosting, what kind of exclusive content you want to see on the Patreon account itself. And saying that because you're with Patreon, the fact is we have to charge money for it. So there are different tiers right now. There's a $3 tier, a $5 tier, a $10 tier, and a $20 tier. So there are 4 tiers that I set up as of last night. So $3 tier gives you a simple shout out on the show. $5 tier gives you a shout out, as well as exclusive access to old school content, as well as this show here, the Fantasy Warfare Tournament. It's not always going to be about Ontario Independent Wrestling. We might switch it up to Canadian Independent Wrestling. It might be, like I said, announcers, valets, 80s wrestling tag teams, 80s wrestling music theme songs. What was the best theme songs in wrestling? You know, stuff like that. Stuff that we're going to try to make interesting for you. In saying that, because we have to charge money, the fact is we don't need the money here. The fact is we're doing this because we're passionate wrestling fans. So one of the ideas that we had was donating to charity. And we've done this before, mainly thanks to Shawn and his association with Cody Deaner and everything that Cody Deaner has done, you know, as far as the Ontario independent wrestling scene goes, as far as what he does locally, as far as what he does even across Canada with his speeching and seminars and everything else. So anything, and I'm talking anything, I'm talking 100% of anything that we make off of Patreon, no matter if it's $2, $5, we make $50 in the month, whatever the case is. Right now, we're going to donate back to charity. So we will give every bit of money to Cody Deaner. He can donate as he wants to. If you feel there's a charity out there that you want to see donated towards, let us know. And what we'll do is we'll switch it up every single month. So like I said, we don't need the money. It's just I wanted to know who's listening, who's watching, who's following us on Patreon, what kind of wrestling fans we have that are, you know, part of our group, Shawn's group, the wrestling community as a whole. And the fact is we want to be able to provide you exclusive content, but we want to be able to give back as well to the wrestling community, especially right now. So Shawn, your thoughts on everything Cody Deaner had done in the past, as well as Patreon setting it up, because this is something we've talked about before, but what do we do? How do we make a Patreon account, and how do we make it exclusive? What do we give people as far as content goes, between the stuff that you've done, the stuff that I've done, as well as the stuff that we're doing now? I think we're headed in the right direction. But what are your thoughts on the whole Patreon experience as a new beginning for us, as well as the Fantasy Warfare Tournament, which was your idea that we're bringing to life?
I think it's going to be really good. Like that's why I brought this concept to bring to Patreon as an exclusive. And I'm thinking, I love the idea that you said about donating with Cody, maybe hooking up with his Giver for Charity. We were a part of it a couple times, helping him with the retirement home in Exeter, also the camp for the deaf kids that he's helped out. So the Giver for Charity is awesome. Not many people are doing it, and that's like getting it out to the public in a concept that a lot of people still, to this day, have their nose down on the wrestling concept. But to see what can give back is the beauty of it. And if we're able to do something on that line and be a part of it, then I'm all for it. Like I've run different charity events. I work for a nonprofit organization helping people with disabilities. So my life lately, over the last 20-ish years, has been about doing charity events and helping out in the community. And so if we can do that continuously and have the connection wrestling-wise with Cody, definitely all for it. I was also thinking when you were talking about the different levels for the Patreon, maybe we could offer, whether it's at the $5 or $10 level, that whoever signs up gets a chance at selecting our topic and being a part of the panel.
Yeah, that would actually be cool.
So at least they're going to a good cause, and they're getting a way of participating with the show.
Yeah, I love doing this live, by the way, because I'm looking for what I'm looking for and I can't freaking find it. But anyways, there are 4 tiers, and basically the $20 mark, it was just basically to add a 4th tier. But that $20 mark gives you exclusive content, everything else. But the fact is, it also gives you the ability to host your own show through us. So you get to be a co-host. You decide the topic as far as Canadian independent wrestling, Ontario independent wrestling, wrestling as a whole goes, and we will talk about whatever the heck you want to live for a whole show. The $10 tier is basically you get to co-host the show with us. If we hit, I think it's 6 or 5 or 6 subscribers on a monthly basis, you have the ability to be co-host as well. So we will pick somebody at random to be able to co-host the show with us. But again, $3 is not much at all to be able to donate. And again, everything right now is all going to charity. You want to donate $20? Go ahead. You want to donate $50? $50, I tell you this, I will do my best to have a one-on-one show with me and Steven. I will convince him that Nakazawa is one of the best wrestlers in the world right there.
There is not enough drugs in the world to convince me of this. I'm excited to give the money to charity. I know in my past I was a social worker, so I've definitely worked in the non-profit sector. So this is definitely, the money's going to be going to good causes for us. As you said, none of us need the money. We're all just big wrestling fans, and we want to do something positive with what's going on right now.
Yeah, so I mean,
the banging outside, it's the pot band. 7:30.
Yeah, we had that going here in London at 7, so I was I could hear it, but I don't think it showed up on the feed itself. But anyways, we got about 27 minutes before TNT episode number 16 launches, so we got a good 20-minute break. Guys, thank you very much for doing this. It's been fun. Like I said, we are going to, and Shawn, as long as you're okay with this, poll on Shawn's group for the Scumbags of Wrestling as far as what you want to see talked about on next week's show. We might
5 topics that we can discuss. Yeah, one of them we've already somewhat put out there. So definitely one of them is going to be 80s tag teams, but I'll come up with 4 more. And
no, hold on. Since we're doing this, we'll put up. You can pick the other random too, but my vote is greatest wrestling commentators. That's my vote right there. So that's going to be one of the poll topics. 80s wrestling tag teams would be another. Steven, what do you want on there?
Greatest wrestling managers. Because I know we would all have different ones, I think.
Yeah, those are 3 of the 5 topics we'll put out there. I will do that probably either during our break or after TNT. But it'll be up tonight, and we'll run it all through the weekend. And then on Monday, the winning category will be announced, and we'll take suggestions from the fans of who they want us to put into the randomizer.
So guys, yes, we are growing, we are new, but this is going to be a fun experience for us. So again, check us out, patreon.com/TNT Throwdown CA. That is the web address, as well as TNThrowdown.ca is the official web address for us. You can reach us there as well. Until next week, thanks again, guys, for doing this. Shawn, thanks for the concept of doing this. I think it's going to be fun. Like I said, to vote for greatest wrestling commentators if you're on that Scumbags group. But Steven, Shawn, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys next week. And see everybody on Patreon. Hope you enjoyed the live and free show from us.
See you soon.
See you guys soon.